I really realized that I had fallen in love, and that, I mean, all the feelings I'd ever felt, loving feelings I had ever felt, I was feeling, and they were so intensified. It was wonderful.
Well,
yeah, still is.
Have to take out that old nightgown.
I don't know how to describe how she looks. She has blonde hair and blue eyes. Some stunning hands. I mean, I remember that because that was one of my mother's outstanding characteristics. Had beautiful hands. It always fascinated me, and Anne has beautiful hands.
I don't know, all of her expressions really come through her eyes. Her eyes don't hide. And even when she wakes up in the morning, to see her wake up, to see her eyes open for the first time, and to see her looking up at me, it's, you know, those are the times that I wonder how anyone could have a problem with this. It's like, I don't get it. This is beautiful.
These women are lesbians. They are just a few of the more than 12 million American women who say their most important sexual and emotional relationships are with other women.
We decided, we told ourselves, anything we catch, holds the boat.
Okay.
Well, finally filed the cross motion.
Oh dear.
I'm sorry.
Love you guys. I didn't know. I thought that there was something different about me when The Sound of Music came out. And I saw The Sound of Music in the movie theater probably at least 10, 12 times. And the only reason I went was for the part where Christopher Plummer kisses Julie Andrews. And I loved that part so much. Of course, most of my friends wished that they were Julie Andrews being kissed by Christopher Plummer, and I wished I was Christopher Plummer kissing Julie Andrews. It was at that moment I knew something was very different.
I first, you know, there was never any one given moment when, you know, I came out and knew I was a lesbian. It's as though I was always a lesbian, that I felt like I was born a lesbian.
I've never, ever fallen in love with a man, and I have fallen in love with women.
I realized that she had fallen in love with me and that I really cared about her. So the relationship just got closer and closer, and finally I realized that I was in love with her.
I loved my friends at school. I had a great esprit de corps with my brothers and all of their friends, but I really preferred women.
I had to be with this woman. Mm-hmm. There was like that driving force that I had to be with this woman.
I fell in love with someone who happened to be a woman.
And it didn't stop her.
No, it didn't, thank goodness. I'd made a very conscious decision in my life when I was going through a lot of changes after I got divorced that I was not going to do something because I was afraid, and I was not going to do something because other people thought I shouldn't do it. I was only going to do it because of me, and if it was right for me, I was going to do it. And so I think before that, I wouldn't have been ready for Marie. I wouldn't have even recognized that I was in love with Marie. Wouldn't have allowed myself.
She would leave notes, little notes, like on my car, drop by the house, leave it on the window panes. When she did not know what her feelings were. I mean, things that made no sense to another individual unless you knew her. You'd almost think it was a game she was playing to tease the heck out of me. But she genuinely did not know that it was sexual.
One thing I know, I love Marie, and I've loved her from the moment I met her. I just wasn't aware of it in the beginning.
To tell my mother I was a lesbian was almost like, I don't know, telling her anything that's positive. I mean, when I talk with her about Ingrid and about the difficulties of coming out to other people and talking to other, I don't know, members of my family and friends, she always talks about how positive this is.
It was so natural, it was so good. I mean, what can you say? It was good. And we laughed. It was so funny when you first told me.
Yeah, that was a scream. Because for about, I don't know, 45 minutes, the only things you could say was, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh.
I couldn't believe it. It's so funny. But it was good. Jackie was happy. It was like Jackie was free. You know, it was so different. I would tell any mother whose daughter is gay, whose child is gay, that it's a shocking thing to hear at first, but demystify it. Remain friends. You know, keep communications, but don't give up your child. That's really your parents' only alternative. It's no good. It's no good that way.
Given that it was only my mother who I had to tell as far as parents are concerned, I mean, my whole situation was colored by the fact that I knew that she would be very accepting of it and she would be happy for me and that it wouldn't cause a problem. So it's very hard to hear when other people, friends of mine, are saying that they were disowned and that they were thrown out, and it's the worst. I can't imagine being in that situation.
I think mostly my mother was shocked when she found out that both my sister and I were lesbians. I remember she told me once that I was on a pedestal and I came tumbling down when she found out. And then with Joanne, you know, that's her baby. I still think it's different for Joanne, because when Joanne learned about me, it was a new idea to her, but I always knew. It was like, it was a growing thought that took shape. Whereas with Joanne, when she heard, like, not only that her sister, you know, loved other women, and then learned sort of about the world at large, that was a possibility, that was a brand new thought to her. At first, I didn't really, you know, I don't think I really believed it. And I just hung with her, and people know, you know, who they are and what they want to do, and so I just decided that's what Joanne thinks she is now. and it's been true. I mean, you know, that's how she's living her life. So.
Mm-hmm. When I was 17, I pretty much said to myself, I have to do something about this, because, you know, I mean, I'd had boyfriends and stuff, and nothing was happening, you know. I wasn't falling in love or anything like that. So then when Elizabeth came out, it was really great for me. But my mom doesn't like it at all. She, you know, I don't really remember exactly how it happened, but I do remember her reaction, you know, like, oh, you're a queer too. And it was kind of like, oh, you're copying your sister. And it's a phase you're going through and stuff like that. You know, she never takes me seriously. in the summertime, I was home. And I was walking with my mother. We were camping. I was walking with my mother. And I turned to her and I said, and this has been 5 years later, okay? This is incredible. It's been 5 years later. I have been through one very serious lesbian relationship. And I looked to my mother and I said, has anybody ever broken your heart? And she said, no, because, you know, she married very young and everything. I said, well, somebody really broke my heart. And she looked at me, you know, sort of, you know, what's the word? Kind of endearing towards me, you know, and she said, Link. I went, Mom, Amy, you know. I couldn't believe that she still thinks, you know, she still thinks that I might marry him or something. I don't know. It never sunk in that I'm not ever going to be married and have kids and all that. And she really thinks that's going to happen.
To me, the thought of being pregnant is the most bizarre circumstance I can imagine in my life. That and the thought of going to bed with a man are two of the most... It would be as strange as my mother thinking about going to bed with a woman.
I never dated a man. I still have never dated a man. I never slept with men. I don't mind men. I just was never attracted to them. There was nothing there to, you know, to draw me to pursue anything, not even curiosity.
Life would be miserable without the difference of approach that a man brings, but I just don't want to spend my life with a man. I don't want to wake up in the morning and see a man. I don't want to have to have sex with a man. I would like to have had children, however.
All of my life, I thought of having children. I just don't remember a time that wasn't going to be a reality in my life. And I think that was one of the reasons that I thought, how can I be with a woman in my life? I want children, I want a family, I want a more normalized kind of life. And then after some years with Rosemary, and as my relationship with Rosemary became ever closer, and you think that you reach a level of closeness and you can't imagine going beyond that, yet as you look back, you say, gee, I feel so much closer now than I ever did in the past. And it seemed as though that was always with us, a building of our relationship. We started talking about having children. There's a very good friend of ours, especially of mine, who I've known for the last 5 or 6 years. And he knew of my interest in having a child. And he knows of my relationship with Rosemary, or has for a number of years. And wanted to do that with us, wanted to father our child.
And it was real clear from the beginning that Luciana would be the one to carry these kids.
I wanted to do that,
Yeah.
and Rosemary had no interest in doing that at all. The wallpaper's going to be over here, and there's going to be a cute border around the edge. And these are the gifts that we received at our wonderful shower that happened.
Could you help me with this?
One of those wonderful gifts was this double stroller. Do you believe it? We're going to be walking with the 2 little babies on this. Our society is not the most loving. And that was my fear. I had these visions of our children going to school and being ridiculed because they're being raised by 2 lesbians. But we're loving people, and we're honest people, and we have a lot of integrity, and I thought, they'll do fine. We'll probably discipline them differently. But
Discipline them differently. You won't discipline them at all. I'm going to be the disciplinarian, I know it. You and Joseph are going to be the goody two-shoes, and I'm going to be the tough mommy.
yeah.
That's okay, I don't mind. They need discipline too.
This is going to be a process. You know, we're going to work it through, and we're going to learn as we go along, aren't we?
I sure hope so.
Uh-huh. And do the best we can.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
People carry around images of lesbians as, you know, man-hating women, hard women in, you know, in leather and you know, dog collars and I don't know, walking around with whips and riding big motorcycles. And you know, the thing about stereotypes is, I think what people have to get beyond is I mean, there are lesbians who fit that description, and that is their expression of their personhood, of their personality, of these are their traits, and that's why should we devalue that? Why is that problematic in the first place? I mean, but then again, a problem with stereotypes becomes that this is the image of everybody who fits into that category of lesbian.
It's always puzzled me how some people are cast as the male and the female, even in the lesbian community, and how there are such rigid lines of distinction. Like I'm a lipstick dyke or a lipstick leslie, and I find that astounding, as though it puts me in a different category. Or there's one that's the femme and one's the butch. And I find that in all of my friends anyway, there's a bit of both in all of us.
If two women are together and one of them feels the need to be, you know, butch, and the other one feels the need to be femme, that's their deal. It's not mine, but I don't care. I mean, I wouldn't get into a relationship with someone who felt the need to be butch or femme, although I prefer a little butcher.
Well, I suppose if people see us in public, they probably, you know, sort of assume the standard stereotype that, you know, we have a very dyke femme kind of relationship, that butch femme kind of relationship, that Anne's the feminine person and I'm the masculine person. In reality, that's true. I'm clearly much more masculine than Anne is. I mean, if you saw Anne in a public place, I think what some people assume is that I'm a lesbian, but that she's not. Like for me, I'm you know, I'm sort of like a warthog. You know, I kind of go along challenging life and challenging people, and you know, I mean, if people make fun of me in a restaurant, people frequently kind of make comments about my appearance, or, you know, are obviously whispering. You know, one of my favorite activities is to get up and go and sit down and ask them if they want to talk about my lesbianism with me, you know, and if they have some concerns or some questions I could answer for them. Why are people not gay? You know, why are people gay? I don't know. I really don't know.
Don't you think that this...
When I go and give a lecture on safe sex or on gay and lesbian lifestyles or on you know, I mean, it's an intense message that I want to communicate to people. And I have a real sense of trying to reach them at their hearts. You know, when I get into bed at night, I get into bed with the woman that I love. You know, I have very tender, loving, gentle feelings about her. There's nothing in me that knows about falling in love with men. I have never done that. And I can't imagine doing that. Oftentimes when I do this, I did this recently with a group of people who are learning how to be psychotherapist interns in an agency. And I asked them to all imagine that they woke up tomorrow morning. These were all non-gay, non-lesbian people. And I asked them to wake up tomorrow morning thinking that now it's not okay for them to be heterosexual people, and that they have to keep their lives private and secret. And that if anybody finds out, they could lose their jobs, they could get kicked out of school, they could be ostracized, they could lose their friends. And just to kind of do a kind of a fantasy trip with that and imagine what it would be like. Could you all change?
I was very much involved in the church, as a matter of fact, and evangelical Christian, over 20 years anyway, I'd say, and was very much enmeshed in it. I felt it was God's will that I get married. I felt that it was the safe thing for me to do, because I thought we could be a unit of productivity at a church. In the middle of my engagement, I fell in love with a woman. I'd certainly been very attracted to women all my life, but I wasn't, one was not overtly a lesbian in the church roster. I mean, one didn't, well, looking at the epistles and so forth, it was a strong deterrent for anyone being homosexual, I think. I felt I should go through with the marriage, but in retrospect, it was certainly, it was a shabby thing for me to have done. It was not a courageous thing. It's the one thing in my life I have deep regrets about. I kept thinking, see, what a dreadful mistake you've made, how basically dishonest you've been over this. You've got to extricate yourself. You must get out of the situation. And so I decided that I would file for divorce when I got home, and then I stopped off in transit and saw this friend of mine and was immediately reassured that I had made the right decision. I knew that the relief, the sense of well-being, the sense of wanting to make restitution wherever I'd made any hurt was paramount, which I did, but I still felt the love of this woman was much more graphic than anything I'd experienced. And I really wanted to spend the rest of my life with her.
I walk my dog a few blocks away from my house, and it's a retirement place for ministers and their wives, for Protestant ministers and their wives. And these people wait for me to come every day with my puppies. They love them, they come out of their houses, they talk to me, and I often wonder if I said to these people, I'm a dyke, what if it would change how they think of me? Or I think that a lot of people that hate the idea of homosexuality, I know they all know one, or two, or 10. They just have no idea. But we're all too afraid to stand up and say, I'm one.
We're not going to be Hollywood today. We're not going to be in this half of the room. We're going to be in this half. I am a teacher. I love to teach. And right now I'm teaching the thing that means the most to me, which is psychology and a class called Quest, which is basically about building self-esteem and learning how to connect more with people. I think people have a tremendous fear in their heads about homosexual teachers because they fear that number one, they're going to try to make their kids into being homosexuals. I mean, I don't look at my students sexually, personally. I mean, that's not my interest in students. I look at them as human beings with all of the stuff going on with them and there to listen and try to help them see whatever they're ready to see.
Jackie? I have 7 classes during the day. I'm here from like 8 in the morning till 3. And so just to end it on a good note instead of having, you know, a solid class, it's really a lot better to end the day feeling really good.
Awesome.
And you know, I come in, it's sort of like at home in a den or some plants, there's posters hanging around, nice carpet on the floor. And then, you know, like Jay said in a sense, and I got 7 classes too, and then at the end of the day, this refreshes me to go home and, you know, we got a lot of advice that's worth millions of dollars here. It's just a great class.
It's just that when they say, oh, I've never really seen a lesbian, or I've never been with a lesbian, and I feel a little twinge of guilt that I can't say, hey, you've had one right here in front of you for all these months, and what do you think? You know, and most of my students really like me, so I'm doing my bit by being in this film, but I'm not yet ready to say that to my classes. To stand up there and say, I am a lesbian, is to bring up all the stereotypes. All right, 7. And I don't want to do that. Very yes. All right, how many very no? Anne's father died about 3 weeks ago, and I wanted very much to be there to support her, and I loved her father, and I wanted to be with her family. And we have visited her parents and been there for almost every Christmas and other occasions together. Then, 3 days ago, Anne received a very strange phone call from her brother on the answering machine. She called back. The brother said, well, of course, that was a terrible thing that you did. And Anne said, what are you talking about? And he said, that you brought Joyce to the funeral services. and now the whole name of our family is smeared. Then he told her that that I was not to touch him or touch his wife or hug them in any way, and that I was not welcome in their home, and if there were any family occasions in their home at all, that I was not invited to attend. He doesn't even see me. He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know how loving I can be and how caring and how sensitive, and he doesn't see any of that.
For me, in my own heart and in my own soul and mind and everything that keeps me together and makes me who I am, I love my sexuality. I love my identification with women. I love the feeling that I get being around other women. But knowing that this is something that is despised makes it very hard for me to say who I am. So this society makes it so that I have to say I'm a lesbian. You know, it comes out as if, you know, I were saying I'm a mass murderer. You know, it's really, this is what I struggle against.
What everyone needs to do is respect the, you know, the deep-seated knowledge in each of us about our sexuality. And I think there is nothing wrong with heterosexuals, you know, at all.